Okay, so for this video, just go ahead and sit back and watch. At the end of the video, or at some point in the video, I'm going to ask you to do a couple problems, and those will be what you turn in. You can write it on a blank piece of paper, lined paper. It doesn't matter what the paper looks like, as long as I can read it, and that works. Okay, so what we're going to discuss now is rational exponents. Now, rational we talked about in class. A rational number can be written as a ratio, which means like a fraction. An irrational number cannot be written as a ratio. So really we've defined rational as a number similar to a fraction. So something like 1/2. Okay, so let's review for a second. We talked about what b to the 0 power would be. Anything to the 0 power is 1. We talked about what something like b cubed would be, which is b times b times b. We talked about, so we have whole numbers, we have 0, and we're going to have a negative integer, b to the negative 2 power. We discussed what that would be, and we did talk about negative exponents and what they mean, which means we would have to move it to the bottom, which is b squared, which is also equal to 1 over b times b. Okay, now second thing we have discussed in class is the power rule. I have b to the m power times b to the n power. Now, the power rule states, not the power rule, I'm so sorry, the product rule. We're multiplying. The product rule states that we add the exponents together. 3, or not 3, m plus n. The power rule states that we must multiply the powers together. Okay, so I'm going to introduce rational exponents using the power rule and the product rule to explore how these work. Okay, so let's think about 5 to the 1/2 power. What is 5 to the 1/2 power? Now, I'm going to use this rule to kind of explore where 5 to the 1/2 power comes from. If I want to use the product rule, I'm going to multiply 5 to the 1/2 power times 5 to the 1/2 power. Okay. If I use this rule here, I must add my 2 halves together to get a whole, which means I have 5 to the 1st power. Now, what is 5 to the 1st power? Well, it's just 5. Okay, well, what two numbers times itself equals 5? Well, that would mean that we'd have to take the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 to get 5. Sorry about that, those are my emails. Now, let's use the power rule to discover this. Now, 5 to the 1/2 power squared. Well, the power rule, I have to multiply 2 to the fraction 1/2. If I multiply that out, I just get 5 to the 1st power. Well, five to the 1st power means that I'm going to have some number squared that is equal to 5 to the 1st power. Well, if I square the square root of 5, that's just what I get, 5. So let's try this with one more example. 16 to the 1/2 power. Well, I have a 1/2 power, that means I'm taking the square root. So 16 square root. Well, the square root of 16 is just 4. Now, let's try this with not a perfect cube, but a cube. Again, you're not having to write all this down, just watching the video, listening. So let's try 10 to the 1/3 power. So this is what I call a rational exponent, written as a ratio. I'm going to use the product rule to kind of figure out what 10 to the 1/3 power is. Well, I have 1 10 to the 1/3. I'm going to multiply it by 2 more. So the product rule here, if I add the powers together, if I'm multiplying the monomials. So we're going to add these powers together. 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3. Well, that's 3/3. That's just 1. So that means I get 10 to the first power. Which is just 10. Now, let's use the same idea using the product rule, not power rule. 10 to the 1/3 power. What do I have to do to 10 to the 1/3 power to get 10 to the first power? Well, I'm going to have to cube it. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 over 3 is just 1. 10 to the 3rd power. So now we have to sit here and think about, well, what times itself 3 times will get me 10? And that would be the cubed root of 10. The cubed root of 10 cubed is just 10 itself. Meaning that 10 to the 1/3 power is equal to the 3rd root 10. So let's try this with a different number. Let's go 64 to the 1/3 power. Well, 64 to the 1/3 power means we are taking the cubed root of 64. The cubed root of 64 is 4. Okay. So let's discuss the homework. So you're going to do these problems on a separate piece of paper. So problem 1, 81 to the 1/2 power. Problem 2, negative 27 to the 1/3 power. Problem 3, let's go 16 to the 1/2 power. And problem 4, x squared to the 1/2 power. So I want you to show your work on these 4 problems, and then bring that into class.